Hey guys, welcome to a new video. In today's video we're going to look at a Leetcode problem, and the problem's name is find the number of winning players. In this question we are given an integer n representing the number of players in a game, and we are also given a 2D array called pick, where every element inside the pick array is in this format, where x of I represents the player and y of I represents the color of ball they pick. Player I wins the game if they strictly pick more than I balls of the same color. Player 0 wins if they pick any ball, because if they pick any ball, their count is 1. When they pick a ball, their score is 1, and since 1 is strictly greater than 0, he is a winner. Similarly with player 1, if they pick at least 2 balls of the same color, since 2 is strictly greater than 1, then this player is also a winner. So to generalize, player I wins if they pick at least I plus 1 balls of the same color. And our task is to return the number of players who win the game. Note, multiple players can win the game. That is our task, to count how many players won the game. I've taken the same example as example 1. N is equal to 4 and we're given the pick array. Now we have to count the number of winners. So for all those 4 players, I'm going to create a map. So key is going to be the integer representing the player name. It is going to be either player 0, 1, 2 or 3. And value is going to be a map of the color and how many times that color has occurred. So it is going to be count of that color. So we start with this element. Each element is of p of 0 is going to be 0. And p of 1 is going to be 0 again. So p of 0 is going to represent the player and p of 1 is going to represent the color. So for player 0, we first add that player and we initialize a map again. And in this map, it's going to be color and count. So the color player 0, I'm going to add p of 0 here, and this is going to be added here, and its count is 1. Next element is going to be 1, 0. Check if 1 player has been added, no, and for him I'm creating a new hash map. So this is going to be color and count. Color 0 and its count is 1. Next element is player 1 again. Player 1 already has a map, so don't create a new map, and its color is 0. 0 is present, so add 1 again. So this becomes 2. Next element is of player 2 and color 1. Player 2 does not have a map, so I create it, and color and count. And player 2 picked color 1, so 1 is added here and its count is 1. Again player 2 map is present, color is 1, so add 1, it becomes 2. Again is player 2, color is 0 and count is 1 now. And we reach the end. Now we have our map ready, and now we have to iterate from 0 to 4 because we have to know how many players are there. So start with player 0, 1, 2 and 3. Player 0, take this player. So we are at this player now. For player 0, we have to check if there is at least one count inside this which is greater than 0. Yes, 1 is greater than 0. So we count the number of winners, which will be our output. So winners, I create a variable which is initially 0 and we add 1 to it. So this is a winner. Now we go to player 1. Check if player 1 has a count here. If 2 is greater than 1, yes. So player 1 is also a winner, so increment the number of winners. Now we are at player 2. Check if this count 2 is greater than 2, no. Check if 1 is greater than 2, no. So player 2 is not a winner, so this won't be incremented. Check if there is player 3, there is no player 3. So we find our final output as 2, so 2 will be returned as the output which is expected here. Now let's take a look at the Java program. Coming to the function given to us, this is the function name. We're given an integer n representing the number of players, and we're given the 2D array pick, and the return type is an integer representing the number of players who won the game. Like we discussed, let us create a map where the key is going to be an integer representing the player, the value is going to be another map, and this value map is also going to contain integer as the key representing the color, integer as its value, counting how many balls we have picked of this color. I'm going to name this map. Let's iterate through this to the array. So I'm going to create a 1D array. I'm going to name it P and iterate using a for each loop through the 2D array pick. Now we have 2 elements inside this. So P is a 1D array. So let's say if this is P, then this P has 2 paths, P of 0 and P of 1. P of 0 represents the player. So I'm going to create a variable player and set it to P of 0. P of 1 is going to be this, which is going to represent the color of the ball. So I'm going to name it color, which is going to be P of 1. Now I have the player and the color. Now this will happen for all p's inside this pick array, right? So let's say once we encounter this, he's the player 0 and he's appearing only once. So for this player, we have to initialize the map. And in the next iteration, P is going to be this. It is for player 1. And now we initialize the map. And in the next iteration, P is going to be this. It is also for player 1. And we don't have to initialize the map because we already initialized a map for player 1. So that is what we're doing here. So I'm going to place a check that if the map dot contains key is not equal to player, it means he is a new player. So for existing players, I'm not going to create a map. Only for new players, I'm going to create a map. So map.put, I'm going to add that player. And I'm going to initialize a new hash map, which is going to be the value similar to the above map. So it is of the same format, integer and map. We are going to set it to an integer and a map. So this check is for new players. So here, once we initialize the map for player 1, in the next iteration, we're not going to initialize the map for player 1. So in this iteration, what we are going to do, we are going to fill in this map present here. So let us create a new map there. So I'm going to name it player colors. And this map is going to contain integer and integer. So I'm copying this. I'm going to name it player colors. And from this map, I'm going to get that particular map. So map.get of this player, I will get that player's map. And into this map, I'm going to insert the color which they have picked and how many times they have picked that color. So player colors.put, I'm going to set the color. I'm going to use the get or default method on this map. So get or default of the current color. If this color has any particular value, we'll get that. If not, the default value is going to be 0. And from the next time, if we encountered this, we increment that color by 1, saying that color we have already picked and we are incrementing that count by 1. So this will happen for all the pick values. So all these values here. And now we have our map ready. Now we have our answer almost ready. Now we have to iterate through this colors and find out how many players have won the match. So I'm going to create a variable winners, which will be our output. Initially it is 0. Now we have to iterate through all the players and we know how many number of players there are there. It is n. So let's iterate from 0. So I'm going to start from int I is equal to 0 until I is less than n, I plus plus. Now we have to iterate through all the players. I'm going to use a flag to denote if this current player we're iterating has won or not. So I take a boolean value and set it to 1, which is initially false. The current player still didn't win. If he won that, we are going to turn this 1 to true. So I copy this again and paste it here. We initialized it, and instead of get, we don't know if this current I is a player inside this map. So get or default, and this player is the current iterator I. And if that player does not have a map, we are going to initialize it. So it is going to be new hash map. Now we have to iterate through this player colors map. So I'm going to use a for loop, and inside this map, for which color, how many times we have iterated, we have to get the values of this map. So I'm going to create a variable count which will iterate through the values of this map. So map.values. Check if this count is strictly greater than the player ID. Player ID is I. So if count is greater than I, then that player has won. So we have to turn this variable into true. And we can break. So we know that current player has won. We turn it into true. Inside this for loop only, we have to check if 1 is equal to true. So if it's true only, we have to increment this variable winners. So that player is a winner. So winner plus plus. So this process will happen for all the players starting from 0 until n. And in the next iteration, we are resetting that variable to false and doing the same process again. And finally, outside this for loop, we can return the number of winners that is stored in the variable winners. So let's try to run the code. The test cases are being accepted. Let's submit the code. And our solution is accepted. So the time complexity of this approach is big of n into m, where n is the number of players and m is the number of elements present inside pick. And the space complexity is also big of n into m because we're using a map. And again, inside values, we're going to use another map depending on the number of elements present inside this 2D array. That's it guys. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.